Hi guys, today we're going to talk a little bit about the potentiometer. The potentiometer is an analog sensor, okay, and its main function is to measure the rotation of an axle or a shaft, and it's going to measure that between 0 degrees and 265 degrees. Now the potentiometer is an analog sensor, so it's different than a digital sensor. Remember, digital sensors, the computer reads it as either a 0 or a 1. It's sort of like an on-off or yes-no system. The potentiometer is an analog sensor, so it reads a value that's much larger. And in this case, the potentiometer is read by the computer as a value of 0 to 4095. So that's the range that we're going to use when we program with the potentiometer. We're going to be using two main commands when we program with the potentiometer. That is, until potentiometer is greater than, or until potentiometer is less than. It is important to note here that the potentiometer does not turn 360 degrees. It's only 0 to 265 degrees. So you'll meet some resistance. It will stop when you're turning it. If it breaks, then it will still function, but you'll notice that it does turn 360 degrees, or a full circle. And we'll then have a dead zone on the potentiometer. So it just won't read the values from 265 degrees to 360 degrees. That's going to be known as a dead zone if yours is broken, but it still will function. So let's hop over to Robot C and take a look at how we program this. So I've got a task description here. When bump switch is pressed, right and left motor run at half power until potentiometer value is greater than 3,468. Then the right and left motor will stop. When potentiometer value is less than 3,028, left motor runs at full power for 2 seconds. You can see I've already got my pseudocode done and some of my task main already taken care of. So the first step of our task main is until bump. When the bump switch is hit, okay, bump switch is pressed, we're going to start the right motor and the left motor at half power. That takes us to our line 4 in our pseudocode. When potentiometer value is greater than 3,468, the right and left motor will stop. So I'm going to go over to my until functions. And if you scroll down to about the middle of your until functions, you'll see potentiometer is greater than, or until potentiometer is less than. In this section, we want to use until greater than. So we're going to grab until greater than and drop it down. And our position is going to be our value, which is 3,468. And our sensor port is going to be our potentiometer. Great. Okay. Now I need to move these over just a bit. What do we got going on here? There we go. Alright, let's move these over a bit so they're nice and lined up. Great. Okay, so now we can write our programmer code here. Potentiometer value greater than 3,468. And once we hit that value, we want the right motor and left motor to stop. So we'll say stop motor. We want to stop right motor and the left motor. Great. So right motor stops and the left motor stops. So Now let's take a look at what comes next. Potentiometer value is less than 3028. So we're going to come over here and grab our until potentiometer is less than, put in our value, 3028. Sensor port is going to be potentiometer. Great. Okay, potentiometer value less than 3028. And what do we want to happen? Well, we want the left motor to start at full speed and run for 2 seconds and then stop. So we're going to start our left motor at full speed, and we want to run it for 2 seconds. And then left motor stops. So stop. Stop motor. Left motor. And make sure we've got our semicolons in. Great. So come over to our programmer notes. We want to start left motor at full speed. Left motor is going to run for 2 seconds. And then we're going to stop our left motor. Great. So now we're ready to go ahead and run this and see if it works on our test bed. So here we've got our test bed, and we need to turn it on. Good to go, and download the robot. Okay, good. Now, the program's downloaded to our robot, and many of you are probably going to run into this where you can't tell right now what value the potentiometer is at. So I don't know if it's at 0 or if it's starting at 4,000. I have no idea. So once you get your programmer debug up, you need to go over to Robot, come down to Debugger Windows, and select Sensors. Once you select the sensors down here at the bottom, it's going to tell you what the value of your sensors are. And you can see my potentiometer right now is at 1,700, and it's kind of changing around after that. So we want to make sure that we start that at 0. So we're just going to turn it to 0. As you see, I turn it that way. To the left, it goes to 0. I turn it to the right, it goes all the way up to 4,095. We're going to start it at 0. All right, so let's just review what we want to see happen when we start this program. I'm going to click Start. When the bump switch is pressed, both motors should run at half power until the potentiometer is greater than 3,468. Then both motors should stop. If I make the potentiometer value less than 3,028, the left motor should turn on at full speed for 2 seconds. So let's see if we program this correctly. Click Start. Hit my bump switch. Those are going to run until my potentiometer goes greater than 3,468, which you can see it's at 4,095. And the left motor shouldn't start until I drop my potentiometer value below 3,028. So take a close look at this number right here as we turn it and see, yep, we're below 3,028. Left motor ran for 2 seconds. So that's how you program the potentiometer. If you have any questions in class, please feel free to ask me. And now you're going to move on to programming the potentiometer challenge.